Larry in Santa Monica, California. Hey, Larry, what's on your mind today?
Yesterday, I called and I drew some distinctions in regards to the young lady who was slammed to the ground by the police officer in South Carolina. And I drew some distinctions between a racist and a racial bigot and someone who's racially insensitive.
Right.
And immediately after my call, you had a gentleman call from Mississippi who sort of just embodied what I had talked about as he sort of inferred that the young lady didn't have a father or she wasn't taught respect. And, you know, I don't know this man's economic or social position, but unless he has the ability, the power to use his privilege to implement policy or enforce his views on society, this man cannot be a racist. He could be a vile, racially bigoted man. He could be maybe someone who's saying something that's racially insensitive, unconsciously. I don't know. But we need to use precise language. And I know that makes a lot of people upset, but I choose to take a dispassionate view of these things. I grew up, I watched my dad, who kept a picture of a young boy with a piece of bread, with a tear on his eye, and a glass of water on hanging on the wall. And I never knew why he kept that on the wall as we were growing up. Well, I found out as I got older that he grew up in poverty, in deep, deep poverty in South Central. And he pulled himself out of that, but he had to work his way through the white power structure in order to do that. Right. And it left him a very bitter man. And so I looked at how my father was torn to pieces inside by having to not only deal with the challenges of his youth, but then to pull himself up, he had to go through a racist system. I choose not to allow that to eat me up as such, and so I try to take a dispassionate view of these things because we need to address it, and we need to address it intelligently, and we need to. And as we address it intelligently, then we can start bringing some solutions. Yeah. I live in Santa Monica. We have a transient population out here. A lot of white guys that are just homeless and for whatever reason. And you know what? Many times I go in my pocket and I give this homeless white guy money. It happens all the time. Now that homeless white guy could turn around and call me an N-word or say a bunch of bigoted stuff. That doesn't mean he's a racist. You know what? He can't be a racist because he's homeless. He doesn't have the power. He can't use his...
Right. Your point, Larry, being that a racist is a person who has the power to enforce their bigotry, and the rest of us are just bigots. But would it not be accurate to say that a vote is a form of power, and that if a bigot is voting his bigotry, he's being a racist?
A vote is definitely a form of power, and that's certainly a racist act. But does that make him a racist? I think a racist is someone who has the ability to absolutely implement their power. They're in institutionalized power. I think you used yesterday the example of a banker, a politician, an official, a police officer.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all, Larry. I started having this conversation with Kenyatta earlier. But I'd love to get the perspective of an African American on this. Whether I'm just being crazy or not. There was a study that was published a couple of days ago that showed that African Americans sleep a half hour to 45 minutes less than white people do in this country by and large, and that the quality of sleep is not as good. This has a negative impact on a variety of performances, from physical to intellectual. And although that has not been measured, but everybody knows sleep deprivation is not a good thing. And the question that they were asking, the researchers were asking, is why this difference? You know, we don't see this difference necessarily in other countries. So this is not a genetic difference. And my theory is that the vast majority of the black population in the United States is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder from growing up black in a white racist country. And that's influencing their ability to sleep. Does that make sense to you, Larry?
It makes total sense. As a black man, we are underneath constant tension. You know, regardless of what class you're in, whether you're poor, whether you're middle class, whether you're affluent. I live in an affluent city.
Right.
And that does not change the racial dynamic at all. And so, yes, we're underneath constant tension. We're underneath constant stress. We're constantly, especially if you live outside of black neighborhoods, which there's not very many. I mean, if you look at the percentages of blacks that live outside of all black neighborhoods. It's not a very high percentage.
Right.
And so blacks who live outside of black neighborhoods, that doesn't mean that we don't still have that tension that rises from being inside of certain black neighborhoods that are in poverty, because now we have to deal with a completely different dynamic of white people trying to undermine you, or either acting towards you in a very condescending manner, and a whole variety of issues. So I heard one of your callers the other day said, "I've been black a long time," and I've been black a long time.
Yeah.
And I'll be black until the day that I slip down into that abyss. And no one, unless you're black, can truly tell you what our experience is. And it's even hard for us sometimes to articulate all of the impacts of those experiences.
I get it, Larry. I'm getting it more every day, and appreciate your call. Thank you very much.